Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our online Kashmir Cultural Heritage Awareness Series, our 92nd today by Sri B. Ganeshan, former Ministry of Finance official. We first begin with our prayer by Ananya Karthikeyan. Ananya is currently studying 12th standard in PS Senior Secondary School, our neighborhood Mylapur school. She has been learning music under the tutelage of Guru Meenakshi Srinivasan, disciple of Neyveli Santana Gopalakrishnan, for the past 9 years. Besides her interest in Carnatic music, she is also learning Bharatanatyam and participated in many competitions, won prizes. Now actively started doing kacheris in various sabhas. Please go ahead, Ananya.
Yes, sir. सदा बालरूपापि विघ्नात्रिहन्त्रि महादन्ति वक्त्रापि पञ्चास्यमान्या विधीन्द्रादिमृग्या गणेशाभिधामे विदत्तां श्रियं कापि कल्याणमूर्तिः न जानामि शब्दं न जानामि चार्तं न जानामि पद्यं न जानामि गद्यं चिदेका षडास्य हृदि द्योतते मे मुखान्निस्सरन्तं गिरश्चापि चित्रम् मयूरादिरूढं महावाक्यगूढं मनोहारिदेहं महच्चित्तगेहं महीदेवदेवं महावेदभावं महादेवबालं भजे लोकपालं महादेवबालं भजे लोकपालं महादेवबालं भजे लोकपालम्.
Thank you, Ananya. That's
Thank you
really
so much.
very nice. And thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thank you, sir.
We thank Sri Kanchi Mutt for our ongoing Kashmir Cultural Heritage Awareness Series and offer our namaskarams, His Holiness Sri Shankar Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal. Our Kanchi Mutt, as you know, has been in the forefront, modestly working with the sole aim of national integration, spiritual enlightenment, and preserving the uniqueness of Kashmir as Kashmir is our cultural heritage. We are now very pleased to welcome back Sri B. Ganeshan, former Managing Director, Agriculture Finance Corporation, and Officer on Special Duty, Minister of Finance, Government of India. Ganeshan Ji needs no introduction as he appeared in our 89th on an interesting topic, Kashmir Shaivism and Atma Vichara of Bhagvan Sri Ramana Maharshi. If you are joining us today or missed that series, please do watch his presentation just 2 months ago. As promised earlier, he is joining us today to talk more on practical aspects. So please stay, watch, and you can ask questions at the end. Ganeshan Ji, thank you so much for joining again. As promised, today is going to be a more practical session. And maybe we'll have one more follow-up session later on to exchange views.
Thank you, Shankarji. I am extremely grateful for inviting me once again to share my thoughts and perspective on Kashmir Shaivism and Bhagvan Sri Ramana Maharshi's teachings. I would like to start with this invocation. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantham Vande Guru Parampara. So my namaskaram and to His Holiness Shankaracharya Sri Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal. I seek Periva's continued blessings. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. So in my earlier talk, I had taken a few sutras from the primary texts of Kashmir Shaivism, namely the Shiva Sutras, Spandakarikas, Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, Pratyabhigya Hridayam, and also Shiva Stotravali, and then tried to map it with the key teachings of Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi. So we find that there are several amazing correlations and similarities between Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi's teachings and the tenets of Kashmir Shaivism. So Kashmir Shaivism is a term which has come to be used in later years. It was originally called Pratibhigya Darshana. So Pratibhigya means recognition. The central theme of Pratibhigya philosophy is to realize and recognize that this individual self or Jiva is Shiva. So everything in the universe is Shiva, pure consciousness or pure awareness. So, when you meet someone whom you know, say a childhood friend, you are not only seeing him now, but also recognizing him. It is, memory and seeing together. So, when I say I recognize him, two things are happening. You are seeing this person right now and also recalling that you had seen him any time before. It is neither just seeing nor is it just memory. In recognition, there is both memory is there and also seeing is there. So enlightenment is just like recognition. We actually get this experience of our own Shiva nature. It is not merely an intellectual knowledge, which is memory, but also the experiential realization that I am Shiva. So this coincides exactly with Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi's teachings. Shiva becomes Jiva. This is Shiva's play to forget himself. So all my pains and sufferings are because I do not know this truth. I have forgotten. So not knowing it is bondage. We have got trapped in this samsara, which is like a jail. Now, Jiva has to realize that he is Shiva. This is what is Pratibhigya, self-realization or self-recognition. Now, the natural question is, everybody has in mind, how do I realize myself? How do I attain liberation or mukti or freedom from pains and sufferings? Now, Kashmir Shaivism beautifully describes different practical approaches, which are called upayas or means. Anavapaya, then you have Shaktopaya and Shambhavapaya. So these are the three parts. So worship of personal deity, the Ishta Devata, doing puja, rituals, pranayama, all these come under Anavapaya. These are the practices that most of the people follow. So in Anavapaya, the awareness is directed towards objects outside of the self. So any practice that we do using the body is Anavapaya. It is Kriya. That is action predominates. Then another path is Shaktopaya. In Shaktopaya, we do not use the body, we use the mind. That is the power of divine Mother Shakti. So visualization techniques, mantra sadhana, concentration, dharana, contemplation, dhyan, all these practices come under Shaktopaya. So in Shaktopaya, mental activity plays an important role. It is jnana, that is knowledge predominates. And the third upaya is Shambhavapaya. In Shambhavapaya, the sadhaka is in thoughtless state. No recitation of mantras, pujas, sadhana, worship, nothing. It's a no mind state. So in the state of Shambhavapaya, there is that sudden flash of eye consciousness of Shiva, the Shiva consciousness, the Shiva nature, Shiva Tattva, what we can call. So in Shiva Sutras, I think it is verse 5, this state is called Udyamo Bhairava. Udyamo Bhairava. So it occurs to those whose entire consciousness is merged in Bhairava or Shiva. So there is another part in Kashmir Shaivism which is called Anupaya, which is the no path means, or we can call it as the pathless path. So in Anupaya, awareness is not directed to either an object or the subject. Sadhaka simply remains as it is without doing anything. There is nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to understand, and nothing to become. So this is the state of complete merger of individual self, Jiva, with the universal consciousness or higher consciousness. So it is a state beyond Turiya, what is called in Vedanta as Turyatita. So it comes mainly through the descent of Anugraha, grace, or even Shaktipat. So we all, heard how Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did, on Swami Vivekananda, the Shaktipat. So Bhagvan gave the technique of Atma Vichara to reach that state of thoughtlessness, which is the direct approach. So instead of getting stuck up at one level, we need to gradually progress from Anuvapaya, the path of devotion, to Shaktopaya, path of knowledge, to Shambhavapaya, the direct path. So ultimately for grace to pull and lead us to Anupaya. where mind is completely destroyed. So this is that state, self-realization or mukti or liberation or freedom from pains and sufferings, salvation in Christianity or nirvana in Buddhist sense. So whatever we may call, whatever is the nomenclature. So self-recognition, that is pratibhigya, happens when there is no I thought. So no I thought means being still, just being. That is to remain in silence, which is the highest teaching of Bhagwan. So what a great equivalence in the philosophy of Pratyabhigya and Bhagwan's teachings. So today, as Shankarji said in the beginning, with this brief overview, I would like to delve more on the practical aspect. This is just a brief overview so that we get a review of what the Kashmir Shaiva philosophy and the Vedantic and Bhagwan's teaching broadly. So no more theory. So I will try to explain and also demonstrate a few basic meditation techniques in Shaivism. And then I would also like to share some pointers from my own experiences for doing the practice of Atma Vichara or self-inquiry, who am I, as taught by Bhagwan. So in Kashmir Shaivism, different practices are recommended depending upon the stage or level of spiritual growth of each individual, because each individual is in his own journey. So Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is one of the greatest tantric texts in Kashmir Shaivism. So it is a wonderful dialogue between Bhairava and Bhairavi, Shiva and Parvati. So Bhairavi is the dormant, dark energy in our body called Kundalini or Shakti waiting to be awakened. So this Shakti in the body or Bhairavi here is communicating with the consciousness, that is Bhairava. So now Rava in Sanskrit means sound. So Bhairava means that which is beyond sound, beyond consciousness, Bhairava. So it is the void, the nothingness, that dark energy. So when you are one with the universal consciousness, then you become Bhairava. So Bhairava is synonymous with Parabrahman in Vedanta. So in Kashmir Shaivism, as we discussed in my talk, Shiva is Prakasha, light, that is consciousness. Shiva is also self-conscious, that is, or self-aware. So when Shiva becomes self-conscious, that state is called Vimarsha, reflective consciousness. So Vimarsha is Shiva's Shakti. So Shiva and Shakti are not separate, they are one. That is why Saundara Lahari, most of people know, starts with Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktah Prabhavitum. So Shakti in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is Bhairavi. So Shakti asks Shiva in Vigyan Bhairav. I will just quote the Sanskrit version. Kim Rupam Tatvato Deva Shabda Rashi Kalamayam Kimva Navatma Bhedena Bhairave Bhairava Krito Trisiro Bheda Binnam Va Kimva Shakti Trayatmakam Nada Bindu Mayam Vapi Kim Chandrardha Nirodikaha Chakra Rudha Manakkam Va Kimva Shakti Swarupakam. So Bhairava, that is Bhairavi, asks Shiva, "O Bhairava, what is the reality of this universe? What is this amazing universe all about? So if you are everywhere, how do I realize you? What is the path one should follow to reach you?" So Shiva, Bhairavi, Parvati or Shakti ask several such questions. So these are the questions that all of us have in our mind always. So in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, Parvati represents all of us, we seekers. Now, Lord Shiva, in response, does not give her any lecture on philosophy, nor he gives her any explanations. So Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is not intellectual at all. It is not philosophical. It is not concerned with what is truth, because we have so many scriptures already explaining truth. But how the truth can be attained? So Shiva gives her 112 methods or dharanas to experience that blissful void or turiya state, to go beyond consciousness, to realize who you are, to realize our true self. So with this, today I shall take up, few dharanas from Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. So the first dharana, it is verse 24 of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Urdhve, Shiva, Bhairava tells Parvati, ऊर्ध्वे प्राणो यदो जीवो विसर्गात्मा परोचरेत उत्पत्ति द्वितीय स्थाने भरनाद भरिता स्थिति. So Shiva says, "O radiant one, this experience may dawn between two breaths. After breath comes in down, and just before turning out, the beneficence." So this is the English translation of the Sanskrit verse. So I will just try to explain and then demonstrate. So in this first dharana, the emphasis is on the gap or interval between the two breaths. Inhalation, exhalation. So it is actually not the gap. It's only for the sake of explanation. It is the void between the two breaths. So the gap is between the in-breath and out-breath. And another void or gap is between the out-breath and the in-breath. So we will now discuss on the two voids. So I would request all to pay complete attention. So first, become aware of the breath coming in. Just watch the breath. Be a silent observer. Let go of all the thoughts. And when you observe the breath, you will recognize that it has a beginning. That is the beginning of the sensation, the pulsation, what we call spanda in Kashmir. It is the beginning of life. So feel the breath touching the nostrils. Feel the sensation. So we should not be making any attempt to control the breath. Should just not be riding the breath. Just flow with your breath. And let it be a natural, normal breath. Without, we should not be trying to influence that flow. So the inhalation and the exhalation should be happening by itself. So now notice carefully, when the breath comes in, there is a certain point at which the breathing stops. So this is the point before the out breath, that is before exhalation starts. So for a moment, there is no breathing at that point. So this could be for a fraction of a second. It is very subtle, very, very subtle. So this void or gap is the first point. So what we have to do is to bring our awareness to that short void or gap between the in-breath and the out-breath. So now after this gap or pause, exhalation starts. That is, you start breathing outward. Again, you will see that there is a certain point at which the breathing out, exhalation stops. So this is the point before the in-breath, that is before inhalation starts. So this is again for a moment. It could be microseconds. So at this point, there is no inhalation and there is no exhalation. So this is another void or gap between our out-breath and our out-breath and our in-breath. So this void or gap is the second point. So now again we inhale and the breath comes in. So this happens, inhalation, exhalation. So what we are trying to do is to bring our focus or awareness in these two voids or gaps. So usually we all know about the breath coming in and breath going out. But many of us may not know that there is a void or gap between the two. That is between inhalation and exhalation and between exhalation and inhalation. So it is a natural gap. It's not an artificial one. It is very, very subtle. So it is also called sandhi. Sandhi is the junction. See, this junction point is very important. And you see, when day and night meet, it is sandhi. So sandhi in every respect is very sacred. So that is why in the Hindu scriptures, the Sandhya Vandana most of us do is very sacred. You have Prata Sandhya, the juncture between the night and day, the Madhyanika Sandhya at noon, and Sayam Sandhya. So this gap is the sandhi or meeting point between the two breaths. So in this gap, there is complete stillness. There is no breath, no thought, only awareness. So as you practice, you will find that the breath becoming subtler and subtler and subtler. And the gap between the two breaths will also gradually increase. So in Tantra, each outgoing breath is a death and each new breath is a rebirth. So with each breath, we are dying and being reborn. So this is a very powerful and amazing technique to realize the self. In fact, Buddha's enlightenment was based on this technique. So in Buddhist terminology, this technique is also known as Anapanasati. So now let us do the same dharana using the Hamsa mantra. Now, this Hamsa mantra, I think many of my watchers would be knowing, people who are watching, the same dharna, but we will use the Hamsa mantra. So many of people have heard about Hamsa, but many people have been asking me the difference between Hamsa and Soham. Hamsa and Soham are one and the same thing. Soham means I am that, Soham. Hamsa means that I am. Both mean the same. I am Shiva or Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, whatever. So Hansa in Sanskrit also means swan, the water bird. Swan is the only creature which can separate milk from water. So that is why many of our sages and saints are called Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa. So one who can distinguish between the real and the unreal. One who has attained Brahma Jnana. One who has realized the self. That is Jnani. So coming back, breathing in will be Ham and breathing out is Sa. So now, Hamsa is the natural sound that comes out when we breathe in or breathe out. So I will now come to the Hamsa technique. There are two Dvadashantas. One is the Antrik Dvadashanta, which is 12 fingers from the tip of the nose. This is called Antrik Dvadashanta. This is like this: 12 fingers from tip of the nose to this is the heart, that is Hridaya, and 12 fingers from the tip of the nose to above the head. This is the Bahya Dvadashanta, to just above your head in the outer space. So this is Bahya Dvadashanta. This is Sahasrara actually. It is also called Brahmarandra. So in Kundalini Kriyas, that is the place of the 1,000-petal lotus. So imagine the breath coming into your body from the Bahya Dvadashanta. So this is the starting point. And imagine the breath going through the Sushumna Nadi. This is Ida and Pingala. Ida, Pingala, the left and right, and Sushumna, the middle channel. So imagine the breath going through the Sushumna Nadi and ending of the breath at the Hridaya, the heart center. So we need to hold the breath there in the Hridaya for a moment. Hold it for a moment. So as you breathe in, inhalation, that is Rechaka, silently chant hum, ha, hum. This sound should be at the Hridaya. And that is when you take your breath inside, the recitation of ha, will end in So from Hridaya, heart center, we breathe out, Puraka, upwards to Dvadashanta, Sahasrara. So again, silently chanting Sa, Sa. So the ending should be Ah. So that is when we take the breath out, the recitation of Sa should end in Visarga Ah. Sa. So this is another starting point. One starting point, the other starting point is Hridaya, that is Antrik Dvadashanta. So concentrate on the start point in breath and the end point Hridaya, which is again the start point for out breath. So in these two starting points, we will experience that void, the Turiya state. That is what Lord Shiva says to Parvati. Bharanat Bharita Stitihi. So you will become one with Bhairava, the universal consciousness. This is the state of fullness, completeness, Purna. So Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. See, this is from Yajurveda. So that is complete. This is also complete. So this Purna, completeness, is the recognition of Shiva nature, that I am Shiva, Aham Brahmasmi. So you are in complete bliss, Ananda, in this state. So now, as breath comes in, life comes in as Jiva, and as breath leaves upward, it is Prana. Jiva, Prana. Urdhve Prana hai, Hedo Jiva hai. Urdhve Prana hai, Hedo Jiva hai. This is Spanda, the vibration or pulsation or throbbing of Shakti. So all of the universe is created by this Spanda. So what am I doing? I am bringing cosmic energy into my Hridaya, heart. It is distributed over the whole body, renewing all the body cells and preventing their decay. It becomes Shakti in my body. Then I condense the energy back into my Hridaya, heart, and send it out. So I become Shiva in my head above. So I am continuously dancing with this Hamsa breath. Hum, sa, sa. So this is continuous dance happening all the time. So many of you may be knowing that there is 21,600 times this inhalation and exhalation happening. It is happening throughout 24 hours of the day. This is also called Ajapa Gayatri. So this path is Anavapaya in Kashmir Shaiva philosophy, because we are using the body and mind for self-revelation. This is Anavapaya. But one thing to remember is that this mantra Hansa should be recited only mentally. And once the mind becomes quietened, the silent chanting will also have to go. That is the state we are actually trying to attain through our regular practice. So this silent chanting is only for initial practice, but over a period of time, the breath gets aligned. Now I come to the second dharana because of time constraints. The verse 25 of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. So it is Maruto antar bahirvapi viyadjugma nivartanat bhairavya bhairavasyetam bhairavi vyajyate vapu. So English translation is, as breath turns from down to up, and again as breath curves from up to down, through both these curves, realize Bhairava will be revealed to you. So in the first dharana, the focus was on the two voids or gaps. Here, the emphasis is on the turning point, the circle or the curve between the two breaths. So this is the curve and the curve. So as you watch the breath coming in and going out, we need to follow the same steps as I indicated in the first dharana. Imagine a space at the start where breath begins above your head, Dwadashanta. Just watch the breath coming in. Just observe. Do not go ahead and do not follow behind. Just go with the breath. Then when the breath comes down to the Hridaya, the breath gradually dies out. Breathing stops. For a moment, there is no breathing here. So after this small gap or pause, breathing out, exhalation starts. So you have to very closely observe the in-breath ending, the momentary gap or pause, and then the turning around. The turning around, that is important, the curve. So now again, watch the breath moving upwards as you exhale. Closely observe the out-breath exhalation, ending at the Sahasrara, Dwadashanta. The momentary gap and the turning around, the curve. Now again, the in-breath starts from the Dwadashanta. So this is inhalation, exhalation happening. So in one complete breathing cycle, the breath turns twice, from inside to outside, and again from outside to inside, the turning. So we should just try to stay in that void for some moment, both at the end of exhalation and also at the end of inhalation. So we should not be turning back too soon. So in this second dharana, there is no chanting of hum or sa. That is why it is Shaktopaya. Because there is no recitation of mantra, and also there is no object here. We have to only maintain awareness in the two voids. Awareness on the turning point, the curve. So in this profound stillness, we quickly go into that Turiya state. We experience the form of Bhairava. We will, awaken to that reality. So now I come to fourth dharana, which is verse 27 of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. I am avoiding the third dharana, which is verse 26, because that is Shambhavapaya, the thoughtless state. So it is for sadhakas who are in an advanced state. We can discuss on that, sometimes in any other session. So I'm restricting myself to Shaktopaya and Anavapaya because of, because that is Shambhavapaya is a state where one reaches. So that's a separate topic we can discuss. So in verse, I'm just reading out what Shiva says to Parvati. Kumbita rechita vapi purita va yada bhavet tadante shantana maso shaktya shantaha prakashati. So the English translation of this verse, Shiva says to Shakti, when breath is all out and stopped of itself, or all in, down, and stop, in such universal pause, one's small self vanishes. This is difficult only for the impure. So now I will explain. In this dharana, we have to begin, taking the breath outside first, that is exhalation, and then take the breath in, inhalation. So as breath comes in and reaches hridaya, stop it. Hold the breath there for a while. Kumbhaka. Now breathe out, exhale. So when the breath reaches up at the Dwadashanta, above the head, gazing upwards, again hold the breath there for a while. That is Kumbhaka. Hold as long as you can. Maybe start with 10 seconds initially and increase it, we can increase it up to half a minute or more also. So what Shiva says is, Shantanama means the state of Sadashiva, which is Shanta. Shanta means peace, calm. So Shiva, Paramashiva or Bhairava has different levels of emanations. We discussed that in the 36 tattvas of Kashmir Shaivism in my earlier talk. So Sadashiva in Kashmir Shaiva philosophy is one step below Paramashiva or Bhairava. So Sadashiva is actually Shiva, but in the body. So to sum up, what this sutra says is, Shaktya means through this process of Prana Shakti, that is through regular practice of this dharana, Tadante means in the end, what will happen? Shantaha prakashate. Shantaha prakashate. You experience the state of Sadashiva, the calm and peaceful Swarupa of Shiva. Prakashate will be revealed. The Shanta Swarup of Shiva will be revealed. That is void. So this is how Swami Lakshmanju, the last living saint of Trika Kashmir, that is Kashmir Shaivism, Trika philosophy, has explained it beautifully. So this dharana is Shaktopaya again, because there is no holding of breath here, but there is an effort here. Through regular, because there is holding of breath and there is effort. So automatically we go into the state of Shambhopoya through regular practice, that thoughtless state, to that no mind state. So these three dharanas I have tried to cover in today's restricted time, and I have from Vigyan Parita because of limitation. But most of the meditation technique, let me tell you, practiced today all around the world are derived in one form or the other from one of the dharanas given in the Vigyan Parita Tantra. So anybody could choose one of these 112 dharanas or techniques to wake up to reality. You can wake up in almost every moment of your day. It makes you awaken in every situation. That is what is, this Vigyan Parita, very powerful. And I cannot express, that has to be experienced. Now, lastly, I would like to delve on the Atma Vichara advocated by Bhagvan Sri Ramana Maharshi, which is the direct path to liberation. So in Vedanta, the process of neti, not this, is used to explain the true nature of the Atman, self. So by rejecting everything that is anatma, non-self. So I think many of you may be aware of Adi Shankara's, classic hymn, Nirvana Shatakam. It's a beautiful poetic way of explaining this neti process. Mano buddhi ahankara chitta ninaham na cha shrotra jive na cha grana netre na cha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the sense organ jnanendriyas, I am not the pancha mahabhutas, I am not the pancha pranas, I am not the pancha kosa, I am not any concept whatsoever. So every verse is a negation of what I am not. What am I? Chidananda, Chit Ananda Rupa, Shivoham Shiva. That is what I am. Pure awareness or pure consciousness or Brahman or Shiva. So neti process is just like the peeling of onions, one by one layers. So if we eliminate all things from our conception, body, mind, this, that, ultimately what remains is not nothing, but no thing. Because it is not a thing. From nothingness comes everything. So Bhagwan explained this neti process beautifully. He said that the truth cannot be directly pointed out. It cannot be expressed. It is incomprehensible. So this neti process is used to explain or guide the seeker to know the truth. It is the guidance. So, but Bhagwan said, we cannot realize the self with this intellectual process, with this academic knowledge, which all of us may have. So, this deep analysis can only help us to withdraw our attention from all other things, from all the external objects. Ultimately, what we have to do is to go within, to go inward and focus wholly on the source of this I. This is the only way to realize the self. And that is what is Pratyabhijna in Kashmir Shaivism. Recognition or rediscovering myself. It is actually rediscovering myself, realizing that I am that Shiva. So Bhagwan's teachings matches a lot with Kashmir Shaivism. So what is blocking us from realizing our true self? I will, quote Bhagwan, what Bhagwan said in this respect. I am only quoting some excerpts from the talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, which was published by Ramana Ashramam. Not the full quote because it will be time consuming. Bhagwan says, this is from talk number 80. Yeah, talk number 80. The thoughts are only vasanas accumulated in innumerable births before. Their annihilation is the aim. This is talk number 80. That is, vasanas are accumulated in innumerable births before. Now, in talk number 172, again, Bhagwan says, efforts must be made to eradicate the vasanas. Efforts must be made to eradicate the vasanas. Otherwise, rebirth after death takes place. Otherwise, rebirth after death takes place. And again, in talk number 317, Bhagwan is explaining to a devotee, the realized ones cannot be reborn. The realized one, that is Jnani, cannot be reborn. Rebirth is due to vasanas which are binding. Rebirth is due to vasanas which are binding. So, very nicely explained. So vasanas are our inherent tendencies or mental conditionings coming from past so many lives. It is because of vasanas that our mind is always wandering. Mind does not allow us to remain still. It is always chattering. It is monkey mind. So vasana produces a thought produces desire, and desire produces action. And this is what is karma. My past actions have determined what I am today. And my present actions are deciding my future. So I am creating my own destiny all the time. And this is how we continue to remain in this vicious cycle of birth and death. This is what Bhagwan says. Punarapi jananam, punarapi mananam, punarapi janani jatareshayana. Iha sansare bahudustare kripaya pare bhaja govinda. So this is what, in Adi Shankara's Bhaja Govinda mind. This is what is bondage. Bondage. In Kashmir Shaiva philosophy, there are three malas or impurities responsible for the bondage of individual jiva. Anava mala, which is due to ego, that is body mind, ego. Anava mala, that is then karma mala, that is actions that bind us, and maya mala, because of maya, illusion. So anava mala, karma mala, maya mala. And one beautiful thing which I wanted to share, David Godman, many of you may be knowing him, who has written extensively and also made several videos and films on the life and teachings of Bhagavan, beautifully described vasanas. I was quite impressed with this analogy. He said vasanas are actually the mind's equivalent of the YouTube sidebar. So YouTube sidebar contains our favorite movies, favorite sports, favorite recipes. It has kept a permanent record of everything that we had viewed in the past. And it tempts us to click and start watching those videos. So YouTube knows our mind very well. And similar is the mind's vasana sidebar. It works almost the same way as YouTube sidebar because it knows what has interested me in the past. And the mind's vasana bar does everything to distract my attention. So how to tackle it? So all of these distracting thoughts and vasanas, they are like a salesman who comes to our door knocking to persuade and sell things that we do not want. So we have all experienced this in our lifetime. So what we do, we usually do not allow him to waste our precious time. We just refuse to engage with him. And this is what Bhagwan says. Every time our vasanas or thoughts try to distract us, just ignore. Eventually, this vasana or thought will die on its own. It will lose its hold. So Atma Vichara or self-inquiry is just a tool to direct our attention back to its source, which is our awareness. What Bhagwan meant by Atma Vichara is experiential investigation. It is not just mentally asking oneself the question, who am I? Who am I? Aham Brahmasmi. You can't become Brahman or Shiva just by chanting. So who am I is an existential question. It is not an analytical question. We should not be looking for answers. It is questioning my existence itself. So we can use even what am I for more clarity. So Atma Vichara means investigating or scrutinizing what this I actually is. What is this I? So I have been getting lots of queries as to how we should practice Atma Vichara. Let me tell you, I am nobody. I am absolutely nobody. Bhagwan has himself given clear guidelines on how to practice Atma Vichara. I am quoting from what Bhagwan said in Nanyar, Who Am I document, written by him for the benefit of devotees. Now, I'll just, quote that. This is very important. Bhagwan says, the mind consists of thoughts. The I thought is the first to arise in the mind. I thought. So when we get up in the morning, the first thought is the I thought, and then multiple thoughts come in. So Bhagwan says, when the inquiry, who am I, is persistently pursued, all other thoughts get destroyed, and finally the I thought itself vanishes, leaving the supreme self, non-dual self alone. The false identification of the self with the phenomena of non-self, such as the body and mind, thus ends, and there is illumination, sakshatkara. The process of inquiry, of course, is not an easy one. As one inquires, who am I, other thoughts will arise, but as these arise, one should not yield to them, but following them. On the contrary, one should ask, to whom do they arise? In order to do this, one has to be extremely vigilant. Through constant inquiry, one should make the mind stay in its presence. Stay in its, in order to do the, one has to, through constant, one should make the mind stay in the, without allowing it to wander away and get lost in the mazes of thought created by itself. All other disciplines such as breath control and meditation on the forms of God should be regarded as auxiliary practices. This is very important. All other disciplines such as breath control and meditation on the forms of God should be regarded as auxiliary practices. They are useful so far as they help the mind to become quiescent and one-pointed. For the mind that has gained skill in concentration, self-inquiry becomes comparatively easy. It is by ceaseless inquiry that the thoughts are destroyed and the self realized. The plenary reality in which there is not even the I thought, the experience of which is referred to as silence. So note this, Bhagwan's highest teaching is silence. Silence, does not mean not talking, no talking. We are all householders living in the world, not in the jungle or forest. Silence actually means stilling the mind. It means just being. It means abiding in self all the time. So now stilling the mind through effort is not possible. Why? Because every effort that we all make is only through the mind. And mind will not quieten itself. Mind is the culprit, the thief. You need police to catch the thief. So Bhagwan's advice is, don't try to force the mind to behave. That will never work. That is not. If you do, you will only end up suffering. So now I shall, only try to share some pointers based on my own personal experiences. And this may help those who are new to this concept. So in self-inquiry, one minute. So in self-inquiry, when we put forth the question, who am I or what am I, we should not be looking in mind for an answer, no answering at all. Just observe deep within where this question, who am I, is pointing you. Where is the source of this I? Let thoughts arise, we should not be paying any attention. We should not give them any fuel, any power, energy. We should not have any interest in the content of those thoughts. Good, bad, nothing. What you should do is, when thoughts arise, immediately turn the attention back inwards to your pure original self. So if you do this, thoughts will automatically disappear on their own. But if you go with the thoughts, you are once again turning your attention away from I, the self, and getting lured or carried away by the mind. So whenever thoughts arise, instead of indulging in them, you should directly inquire as to whom do these thoughts arise. This is what Bhagwan says. So the obvious answer is that they arise to me or to I. Why? Because we identify ourselves as I, the body mind. And we think that these thoughts are being generated by this I. They are my thoughts. This is what we say. And that is the problem. Now, coming back to the question, once you have answered the question that the thoughts arise to me, the follow up question is then again, who am I? What is this me or I which is aware of this thought, that knows this thought? So, what we are doing is forcing the mind to look back and see where this thought arises. What happens? So, what happens? The mind becomes still. Why? Because the mind has no answer to this question. There is a momentary pause. So this pause or gap is void is similar to the pause or gap that we discussed earlier in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, Dharnas. So it is that thoughtless state. So Bhagwan very emphatically said, all other practices, pranayama, kriyas, mantra sadhana, puja, rituals, are all aids to restrain the mind. They do help us in forcing our mind to subside for some time, but it is only temporary. The mind will rise again. So if you do breathing exercise or whatever, ultimately when you come out of it, when you do puja, when you come out again, mind goes back. They will not bring about manonasa. So Bhagwan said the supreme self cannot be realized through the mind at all, because there is no mind. So every other form of practice is basically action of one kind or another done by the mind. So the purpose of doing sadhana or practices is not to become Brahman or Shiva, because we are already that Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. So we are ignorant. That is the problem. So the only way to realize the self is to just be. That is what Bhagwan meant by Shumairu. So Sumairu in Tamil means being still, Mauna, or silence. In Kashmir Shaivism, this state is called Paravak. You know, there are 4 levels of speech in Kashmir: Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikari. So these are the 4 levels of speech. So that is what that Paravak, Mauna, the state of Anupaya in Kashmir Shaivism. So before conclusion, there is one dharna in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. I think time is, yeah. So there is one dharna in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra which is very interesting. And I think it is dharna number 35, verse 38. Before concluding, this is one aspect which I wanted to share. Dharna 35, verse 58. Vishwametan Mahadevi Shunya Bhutam Vichintayet Tatraiva cha Mano Leenam Tatastallaya Bhajanam. So Vishwam Eta Mahadevi Shunya Bhutam Vichintayet. Shiva is telling to Parvati, this universe is nothing. It is only a vacuum. This whole world is just a drama. It is just a play. We are just playing our roles as a son, daughter, mother, father, brother, sister. But what actually is happening is we get very seriously involved in this role. Because of this seriousness, we are getting into problems. See, there is so much of chaos, disorder, disharmony, conflict in the whole world. The ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Palestine conflict. So what is this fight all about? The fight between Devas and Asuras is happening all the time. This is true in every yoga. Devas and Asuras are in our own body. So it is the divine play. Shiva and Shakti are having fun. And we individual Jiva are falling prey to this Maya. So we need to just play our role without involvement, without attachment. So Bhagwan says, Atma Vichara, or self-investigation, can only give us this gyan, this knowledge. So let us awaken to this reality. Let us wake up to realize our true nature. Shivoham, Shivoham. With this, I'll conclude. And if anyone has any doubt or clarifications, they may write in the comment section or even call me anytime. I shall certainly try to share whatever little I have known, understood, and experienced myself. So let me confess that I am myself a sadhaka. I am not a master at all. I am a Sri Vidya Upasaka and an ardent devotee of Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi and Kanchi Mat, right from Mahaperiva, with whom in childhood, days I have got the opportunity to stay with him for more than 6 months, see him on a daily basis, and then the Kanchi Shankaracharya Mat, which we keep going. So I am a practitioner myself, and I'm also making every effort to destroy or melt away this I. So my sincere thanks to the organizers, particularly Sri V. Shankarji and the Kanchi Shankaracharya Madam, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity once again to share my insight. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Sir, thank you so much. And it was a real wonderful practical session. I'm sure we have to rewind and go through the session again and again. I can only conclude saying Shanta Swarupam. That is what I could see you all the time, that Shanta Swarupam. And you explained how one can reach that Shanta Swarupam. And it was a great explanation. What we are doing unconsciously, you just wanted to put some consciousness in, for example, the breathing. And I think we'll have to really, as you explained, we have to practice, not just listen, practice and experience this.
It has to be experiential knowledge.
And very well explained and nicely demonstrated with examples, verses, plus your own personal experience. Maybe people will have to try and follow some of the instructions and come back and share their experience. Thank you so much. And looks like you have to come back and continue, because you touched upon here and there saying time constraint.
Yeah. So this is, Kashmir Shaiva and our Vedantic philosophy. So we have everything in scripture. There's so much and so much and so much. And, I'll tell you very frankly, we have to unlearn whatever we have learned. That is the beginning of the spiritual journey. If I say I know, it is absolutely, I'm fooling myself. It is the first state is to unlearn what this bookish knowledge is good. It is required, but experiential knowledge, it has to be. So that is what, real, the inward journey, the spiritual journey, what Bhagwan said. So Bhagwan was a living example. And that is what, Bhagwan and our Paramacharya and our Kanchi Shankaracharya, they're all living God, actually. Living Shiva is virtually, we are seeing Shiva on a daily basis. We have to realize, but we have realized souls in this, our land, that, if I get an opportunity, I would rather try to be all the time with this, Paramacharya or Periva.
Have you ever been to Kashmir,
Yeah.
Ganeshji?
Yes. Very lot of times. I have been, when I was in the ministry, it was very frequent visits. And in my personal visit also, yeah. I had my honeymoon, in fact, after marriage, first Kashmir.
Very nice. Maybe we should plan on trip along with you, and we conduct meditation and classes over there.
Sure.
There is
my pleasure.
Whatever
I can contribute, whatever I have my experience and learned, it's always I am over. And that's what I'm doing. It is all contemplative sadhana for me. And it's Mahaperiva's blessings and Periva's blessings that today I am getting this opportunity with Kanchi.
Thank you very much. And I will be in touch with you and plan another session on the same topic that we can continue and enlighten us more on this. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Thank you, viewers. It has been a wonderful session today. And those who are joining late, please rewind and go through his short session, highlighting his personal experience and how one can attain, do this sadhana using a simple breathing exercise, which we have been doing unconsciously. And he has given some ways of doing it, which I think you can easily practice. We always thank Kanchi Mat for all the support and streaming through kamakodi.tv Kanchimat channels, YouTube and Facebook. Also, VDSP for our streaming support during our program, and of course, Dinamalar, India's only leading Tamil newspaper, which gives coverage of our events almost on a weekly basis as and when it appears. I also see a message will go through the full video, beautifully explained. Some joined very late, so please, it's always there in our YouTube channels. You can just simply Google Kashmir Shaivism or Cultural Heritage Awareness Series. Please do watch and continue to subscribe and watch our program. We do once in 2 weeks instead of every Saturday. So next session could be either this month or early December. Till we meet again. Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Hara Shankara.